by October of 1982, when Reagan signed NSD 61, the one that's still classified, all signs point that they were going to intervene in Suriname. They had apparently acquired weapons through NATO depots that they had broken into and stole weapons from. Coup training was allegedly being provided not only through Peter Van Happeren, who we talked about being controversial, but he said he was trained by a guy named Bob Denard. Look him up. That dude has got a crazy story. Took over his own island before being ousted and then retaking it back. So they were planning this thing that I've started to call Operation Red Christmas in December of 1981. And I call it that because they planned a similar thing in Christmas of 1981. Sorry, they were planning it in Suriname in December of 1982, but they had planned something similar in Nicaragua the previous year, December of 1981. They actually, you can read the declassified documents. I've written about this in the archives back on Substack. They went in and they were running terror operations on the Mosquito Coast, where the Mosquito Indian people were living at the time, to try to kind of rally their support. So they were doing exactly the blueprint of what they washed, rinsed, and repeated here in Suriname the following year in 1982. But the problem is that Bouterse caught wind of it. They caught wind of it. Some people, allegedly, according to Van Happeren, were worried about the potential of loss. 800 to 1,200 people were potentially going to get killed in this coup. And he said that they leaked the plans to Bouterse. Now, that was only one of the ways that they leaked it. We'll cover more of that in another chapter. But Bouterse executed 15 prominent citizens. We're talking, he kidnapped them in the middle of the night, took them from their beds, dragged them from their children, and brought them down to Fort Zeelandia, which is a moated, stone brick fortress down on the banks of the Suriname River, right on the coast near the ocean there. And he executed them at this little place called the Bermuda Triangle, claiming that they were part of a USA-backed plot. Now, whether Bouterse acted on legitimate intelligence or he used the specter of foreign intervention as a pretext for eliminating his opposition, we don't know. We know what it looks like. The December murders, either way, became a national trauma. It's like their JFK assassination. And it was a pivotal moment in U.S. Cold War operations. Now, near the end of his presidency, Reagan declared that during his 8 years, not 1 inch had fallen to the communists. And he mentioned success stories like Grenada, which, by the way, the blueprint for the invasion of Grenada came out of the blueprint for the invasion of Suriname. And I've also discussed this back in the archives. You can look up the sources on that. So, but Reagan remained very quiet. In fact, he remained silent on Suriname. And there was a reason he had to keep that a secret. And that's because his covert operations in 1982, leading up to the December murders, had helped lead to the deaths of 15 prominent Surinamese citizens. And what was worse, Reagan had been protecting their killer through a proxy of Brazil, which we'll talk to about in the coming episodes as well. So these Suriname incidents don't just represent like a historical footnote. They're really an inflection point in the Cold War where defensive continuity planning, dealing with a potential nuclear attack, evolve into offensive covert operations, going on the attack, on the offensive against anybody the Reagan administration deemed to be communist, and that they didn't want to have to get permission from Congress to be able to get rid of them. They could use this as cover. They could classify the materials. They could raise their own money through drug deals and missile trades and other things that would allow them to self-fund their operations without oversight and go in and bring the jackals and overthrow regimes. And they did this over and over again. So what began as a stranded aircraft on a tropical runway ended as this template for shadow warfare. repeatedly deployed over and over again during the Reagan administration. And in Paramaribo, Project Democracy found both its kind of testing grounds, if you will,